friends, Mrs. Ryder's here with our science experiment for the week. We are going to be making lava lamps. So what you need to make your lava lamps is you need some cooking oil, and you are going to need some Alka-Seltzer. You can use the real stuff or the generic, it doesn't matter. You are going to need water, food coloring, and a container to hold your lava lamp. If we were making this at school, we use water bottles that we collect from lunches from our students that instead of throwing them away, we wash them and save them to use them for our sensory bottles and for things like our lava lamp. So you can use a water bottle if you have one at home, but Mrs. Ryder's just gonna use glass today. Since it is Earth Day, Mrs. Ryder's going to make ones that include the colors of the earth. So we are going to have one that is, what color do you think? You got it, blue, and our other one is going to be green. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to fill our glasses with some of that vegetable oil. Most of your container is going to be filled with the vegetable oil. It's not an exact measurement. The skinnier and taller your glass is, the better this experiment works. All right, so Mrs. Ryder has 2 glasses filled with oil. Now we're going to add our water. So do you think when I add the water, it's going to sink to the bottom of our glass or it's gonna float on top? Well, let's find out. You see what's happening? Let's give it a second to settle. So if you look close, they're separating because oil and water don't mix. So if you can see, which one is floating on the top? Our oil. And our water is down here on the bottom because our water is heavier, so it's gonna sink to the bottom and the oil is gonna float on top. All right, now we are going to add our food coloring. Now our food coloring, do you think it's gonna stay on the top or is it gonna sink to the bottom like the water did? Let's find out. I'm adding blue to my first one. You can see that it is turning into like little balls as it floats through the oil. I'll show you a little bit better when I do this one. 8, 9, 10 drops. So if you can look close, you can see that there's little balls of food coloring in the oil, and they're kind of hanging out there as they drop down to the water. Now, because we want to see our food coloring, we're gonna mix it up. Now, you don't have to mix them up. You can leave them just like this and see what happens. Or you can mix one up. Mrs. Ryder needs my spoon. All right, so I'm just gonna mix this one here. And we'll see that pretty blue color. And now I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. And I'm going to mix so we can see our pretty green. Now, if we were using a water bottle and you put the lid on your water bottle, you could slowly turn your water bottle sideways like this, and you'd be able to try to get the oil and water to mix, but eventually it will always separate and the oil will always stay on top. All right, so we have our pretty green and our pretty blue, and now is time for the fun stuff. So Mrs. Ryder's gonna get the Alka-Seltzer. Now the fun thing about this experiment is that you can do it over and over again. So I'm opening the Alka-Seltzer, breaking it up a little bit into some pieces. Now Alka-Seltzer is something an adult might take if they had an upset tummy. What happens with the Alka-Seltzer is when it mixes with water, it releases a gas, and we're gonna see that as a bubble. Lots of bubbles, all right? Are you ready? So Mrs. Ryder is gonna start with dropping one in each. And now I'm gonna drop another piece. Can you see the bubbles coming? I'm gonna drop a few more and then I'll get closer so you can see what's happening. All right, let me get you closer. Can you see what's happening? So the Alka-Seltzer is going to sink down to the bottom and it's going to dissolve or break up in the water. And when that happens, it releases gas. It releases carbon dioxide. So we're seeing that in these gas bubbles. And then the gas bubbles rise to the top and they're gonna take our colored water for a ride. And once that colored water hits the top, the bubbles pop and they return down to the bottom. Let's see if we can do a little more of that. And again, if you were doing this in a water bottle and you had a lid, if you wanted to save this to show maybe an adult who's working when they get home, you could just cap it and then you could show them later and do it over and over again. Isn't that cool? Can you hear it? So much fun, right? And you can do any color in the rainbow that you'd like to do. Mrs. Ryder just wanted to do blue and green to celebrate Earth Day. I hope you enjoyed making lava lamps with me. See you next time.